Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Palazzo Trevisan. Welcome to the Salon Suisse. We are starting tonight the last session of a block of 4 sessions which took part over the whole duration of the Biennale. And I'm really happy to see so many faces here. I know there's quite a few students from Switzerland, but we also have, I heard, a group of students from Portugal. We have architecture offices from several countries too. So it's really great we can start this evening so well attended. I will not tell you too much because the one who will explain you what's happening these days is Leila El-Wakil, our salonier, as we call it. She is responsible for this entire program, which started with the opening of the Biennale and is now coming slowly to an end. You know, maybe the Biennale closes on Sunday. And just to give you a very short idea what the Salon Suisse is about, we think the Biennale is such an important platform internationally for architecture, both for architecture and art. And the exhibition is always a very big statement on what's going on. But I think it should also be a statement, or let's put it more like it should be a vision also for the future of architecture. So we don't try only to show the status quo of architecture right today, but we also try to think into the future. And I think this is what Leila El-Wakil also did very much with her manifesto. If you read the program, we don't have to take things just as given, as granted. We have to work on them permanently and think of other forms of possible architecture. So I'm very pleased that we have again several guests. Leila will introduce them later to you. And the Salon is an old format. The name says it. It's something from the 18th century. And of course we'll have a presentation at the beginning. The people are going to be on stage here, but this should not be a hierarchical system. You will be asked later to discuss, and probably also after the conference here you can join and continue talking. We are free to spend the whole evening here and see what's going to happen in networking, discussions, and so on. I would just like to thank our sponsor, Laufen Bathrooms from Switzerland, who've been with us with the Salon now for 5 years already, and also like to point out some of my colleagues. There's Marianne Burki, she's head of visual arts at the Swiss Arts Council Pro Helvetia. We are responsible for the presence at the Biennale. There's Rachele Giudici, she's also part of the team. Together with me, we are responsible for the project here. And a special guest tonight, also from Pro Helvetia, Felix Ullmann from our board is here. Welcome to the Salon. And yeah, at this moment, I'm happy to pass the word already to Leila El-Wakil. Thank you.
It's a real pleasure to have you all of you tonight. Oh, it doesn't begin so well. No, it's much better. So we are many tonight, and it's a real pleasure to welcome all of you. And we have many students from different institutions. And really, I want to thank Pro Helvetia for accepting the slightly unusual challenge. Usually it was not so crowded, and at last we did it. And I am very pleased, to have a lot of young people who are the VIPs of tomorrow here attending the last Salon Suisse. Are present tonight more than 20 students and members of the staff of the University of Geneva, Department of Art History. And we also have the pleasure to welcome the Escola Superior Galesea of Portugal and the students and staff of the EPFL, École Polytechnique Fédérale, non pas de Zurich, mais de Lausanne. La Suisse romande est très bien représentée ce soir, c'est aussi un plaisir pour moi. Et aussi, we have also the whole agency of LVPH, LVPH, the two directors are present here on my left, and they will speak tonight. I will present them a bit further. We will have three very contrasted evenings to approach the question of low-cost architecture, small or not small architecture and programs, and mainly a humble professional attitude driven by creativity, imagination, and sensibility. Tomorrow, we will bring up the topic of affordable housing through the Great Sugar Hall project. It was built in Harlem, New York, by the famous Agile Associates architects and originally initiated by a non-profit developer of supportive housing, Broadway Housing Communities. The complex aims to combat poverty and revitalize the community by bringing together affordable housing, a preschool, and an art museum for children. During our last evening, a Venetian architect, Lorenzo Paretti, will explain to us his outside-the-box endeavors to reinvent the work of the architect by creating l'atelier ambulant d'architecture in French, because he studied in Paris, and in English it would be the Traveling Architectural Laboratory. The Salon will close with a performance by Ajar, an association of 18 young writers, and you will hear only 6 of them in the Salon, who will deliver an original synthesis and artistic conclusion to the reflections that we developed here at Palazzo Trevisan since the opening in May 2016. Tonight, I am very glad to introduce you to LVPH Agency, le Bureau LVPH, plus simplement, headed by Paul Humbert on my left, and Laurent Vuilleumier, and again, no light, hope it works. They are going to speak about reduction in 4 of their projects, all in rural areas of Switzerland. Their work is deeply grounded in the rusticity of traditional Swiss countryside. These exceptional projects will act as prompts to discuss and question the economic dimension of architecture in rich countries like Switzerland. And just before we start, I want to remind and inform the public that a visit is organized tomorrow to the exhibition The Horizontal Metropolis. You saw it in the program, but you didn't see where is the appointment place, and we will have to meet at the Certosa Island, which you can reach with the Vaporetto 41 or 42. And we will have to meet there at 11 o'clock in the morning. So please come join us also for this visit. And now I will give the floor to Paul and Laurent, and thank you very much.
Thank you. 3 micros. Ouais, c'est bon. J'en ai un là. Allô. So, good evening, everybody. We are really glad and happy to be here, and thank you to Leila for this fantastic invitation. She asked us to present small projects, low-cost projects, and it's not so easy as a Swiss architect because we believe that there is no low-cost possibility in Switzerland, or nearly nothing. And because we are a rich country, and we pay good all the workers on the working place, and the material is perhaps not so important. And at the end, The Swiss is not the best place to make low-cost architecture, but we were chosen and asked to go a little bit in this direction, and we have some projects where we can say they are low cost, and we select 4 small projects that are really in the landscape of Switzerland, and where the economic question is really in the center of the development of the project. The first problem we have, it was to show small project, and then it was to make a lecture in English, so you can switch. We had to make a small course, and we knew that there would be many students in the place, so please take notes. And on the right, it's for our office, because they really don't speak any words, so we will just repeat this word many times. I hope you write everything and you have it in mind.
Oh my God.
Next one. So that's our first project. No. So that's a project we took as an example to see a bit what's the model in the mind of perhaps a majority of Swiss owners in Switzerland. Or in Switzerland we don't have many owners. We rent houses, and I think for most of the people, the house has this kind of image. It should be a perfect house, finished, with a finished area, with very clean, and where you have nearly all the options, but it shouldn't be too big. And I think, and also the garden is never that big. It's perhaps 500 or 700 square meters. And we thought about it would be interesting to show a project where we try to go in an idea of reduction, seeing this image. I just hope the architect of the house is not in the room. It's not that we don't like it, but it's not exactly what we do. And so we chose 4 projects that where the idea of reduction is and economy is very strong in the project. You see these 4 projects through 4 facades, and you will have this approach through 4 different points of view. The first one is a reduction of the tools of architecture, using just walls to define or to draw a house. The second reduction is simply a project with the smallest house as possible and reducing the luxus. The third house is a reduction where we make a project destroying half of an existing building. And the fourth project is a project where the idea of unfinished development goes through. So you will see a bit this 4 approach. And to start it, it's also important to speak about something special between us. We are cousins. Cousin Germain, I don't know how we say it, but German cousin, let's say. So the guy with the red pants, it's Laurent, and the guy with the leopard, it's me. And no, attends. And just this picture to tell you that when we speak about reusing, recycling, and low cost, we know what we speak about. If you look at the pants, just imagine that the pants of the big one will go on the whole family. And so if you look also the boots, you can also imagine that for us, we are used to wear the same shoes the whole year. And it's not a problem to wear winter boots in summer like I do it. And so to start, we both studied in Lausanne, in the École Polytechnique, and we didn't open our office when we finished the studies. We begin with experience we did abroad. I worked 4 or 5 years in Portugal, and I opened an office there. And it was an important experience where we had really to deal with the material, with construction, with small scale on a very direct way. And Laurent he worked in Berlin and also in Azerbaijan, where he did a very, let's say, impressive experience during 1 or 2 years. And let's present yourself.
Okay, hello everybody. Yes, I will follow this introduction by presenting an amazing experience I made in 1997 in Azerbaijan. And it was a time 2 years after diploma, so I went first to Berlin, and then I arrived there, and it was a time where I doubted. I didn't really know how to build architecture. I knew how to draw architecture, but not to build it. It was very hard. In Europe, I think it's hard to build things because you don't understand. It's so complicated to build that you feel lost. And this experience helped me to find a path to building something which corresponds to me. So it's a war environment. So you see here destroyed houses. It was a big war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. 1 million refugees, and it was a European project trying to rebuild 250 houses for people to come back to their homes and to dig the earth again. So the first task was to draw maps of the villages, because there was no Google Earth at that time. And you see here all the little squares, there are houses, and there were different kind of houses which were more or less destroyed, and I was in charge of the total rebuild for people who didn't have anything. They had a wooden house or something and they didn't have anything left. So I will just show you one example. It's a type 2 house. It was for small families, 24 square meters, and it's a really simple way of constructing. And that was the big experience there. I worked 1 year without computer for 1 year, always drawing by hand and talking to people and help them to build often themselves their house. And so you see the plans and section on the left, and on the right you see the material costs. And just here under you have the total cost of the house. $2,700, and it's very interesting to think that in Switzerland you don't even buy a door for that for that price. And also the way people start their self-construction. We just have a camion, trucks, delivering stones, which were 20, 40. And they just dropped it, and people carried them and put them one on the other, and all made everything. They made everything to themselves, with the help of masons as well when they need it. But it's when you see this, it's really far from our reality. So the house at the end is very, very simple. You can notice that. The blocks, they are looking out so that people can extend their house in the future, because it's just the beginning. It's to help them to start to live again there and to begin a new life. So that was this experience which brought quite a lot for me in my development. And now something much more serious, if it works. So this is a panorama of our playing field in Pampigny. It's where we have our office. I just took the film on Monday because we didn't have any good films before. But it shows you a panorama of all the houses we've built along a street. There are, I think, 7 projects. We began with Paul in 2002, and we made several experiences along that street and began giving it a new identity. But as well, we experimented quite a lot of things. So we'll start with our own office in a barn. the house in the middle is the house of my mother, where I was born. So we both came back from abroad and decided to build our office beyond the tree here. It was a barn for straw, so there was a platform with an opening to leave another platform going out. So we thought it was a good idea to put our office here because there was a light. So the idea was to build something very, very cheap because we had no money and very little projects. So we could explain these projects with two materials. In the barn next door, there was a silo, house from wood, and you can see on the top left. And the other material was bidim. I don't know how you call it. It's tissue which you put underneath the street. It costs maybe 50 francs for 100 meters, something. Yeah.
It was less expensive at the time.
Yeah. So we built a construction. We inserted in our office in that wooden structure ourselves. We made everything with our hands because we had no money to pay anybody. So we drew. It's a bit the same drawings as in Azerbaijan. You can notice, and we had quite a lot of fun building it. Here you can see Paul and me carrying the wooden pane on the top of the box. So this was the nice years. Sometimes we had little surprises and problems to get inside our box to work, but we managed to finish it. So this is the final look of our office when it was built. We made an opening in the roof and a chimney to bring the light inside the box. Inside there is a big contrast. We made an architecture very, very, how can you say, dépouillé, with beautiful in one word, with a large opening looking outside. Here another image to show you just the woodwork. We took the silo and made the floor with it, and the table and the bank. So it was our little baby at that time. But if we made our office there, if we built it there, it was not only because we had nothing to pay, but also because we had another project just next door in a barn. And it was a bit the follow of the experience, but it was to rebuild the whole building. It was a complete building that we had to transform. So we could say, as Luigi Snodzi, house for the cows and house for the people. So we had to transform that barn into 3 dwellings, which we inserted in it, but in keeping the same language as it was there. So that was our goal, and we tried to make it there. The project is quite simple. In a section you can read it. Maybe there are three dwellings. There's one dwelling which goes like this, one which goes like this, and one which goes like this. So very high volume and lots of space, but minimal intervention in it. Well, I say minimal, but we still had to empty the whole barn. We discovered paintings from Lascaux here. It was an artist who, I don't know what he was doing in this barn, but he painted the walls with images of the cows which were underneath him. And there was, yeah. Just a few images to show you the ambience of the place, what we tried to do, a passage here outside which leads you from one part to the other, and you can go in the apartments with it. A kitchen, very poor, with prefabricated concrete. So very simple spaces. Here, dining room. The top floors with the rooms. We had also a wood cut in the woods next door, and we just had it for the floors and the ceilings. Very high dwellings on 4 stories. Also outside, we just put some new concrete elements to define a park, to give new dimension to the garden. And here the final look of that intervention with our office here, and here all the rest, and the cabanon here, other wall here, and other walls behind, which we don't see. Then there were 2 free spaces here and here for new projects for us. So we experimented the new research and tried to build something on these plots. So the goal of that project was to build as low as possible. The project's name is 3 low houses. They were built for us, for a colleague of mine, Barbara, and for my family, and the small house is rented. So Barbara lives here, the office is here, and I live here, and this is rented to pay the charges. And here you can see what we saw with the cows before, and the big barns of the village and the central barn, and we tried to keep as low as possible on both sides of it. So we took as reference the many walls that are in the villages, and the small constructions, which you can see. They are big barns like this, and they are small houses for more poor people. And we took that language and put it on our new constructions. And then it gives a bit a strange shape. People don't really know what it is. They think it was a shed for pigs or something. And people think there are maybe here maybe 4 houses or 1. You don't really know what it is, and it's quite interesting for us. The roof was a big problem because it was imposed by the village. We had to build with roofs. So we decided to reduce the height of the house, of the roof, so we made 2 roofs for each house. Here you can see the plan and section and the model from the house, from one of the houses. And in fact, what is interesting is that idea of dividing the houses in 2 with 2 roofs gave us the idea of the typology of the house. It's a succession of little spaces which are all with the same section, and there are no floors, so no, comment on dit, couloir, no corridor. So it's a succession of rooms which are sometimes open with sliding doors or closed for the service and sleeping rooms. So it's a very reduced typology. It's very effective. And that was also an interesting way of thinking about reduction, I think. Here you can see an image of the passage under these roof lines. Also the image of a building site with the carrying walls, everything in brick. Here, all the walls following each other, all the same shape. Giving birth to rooms which are all like small houses. And inside a very, very simple language. The floor is always the same, and the windows are also the same in the bathrooms, in the rooms. So you feel that when the house is not inhabited, you feel a bit lost in it, I think. The construction is also as cheap as possible. It's a concrete cellar, prefabricated, and then insulated bricks and carpentry roofs, which are also prefabricated on the top. For the walls, we made a big research to find the right color for plaster, with different sands, different pigments and stones. We made that and choose one color, and as soon as it was dry, we knew it was the right color. It was also the cows, when it's raining, the house will gets darker because it's humid, but the cows are also darker, so it always matches. And this is a view of the garden. These cows, they follow us since the beginning and accompany us. Then Paul, tu viens là?
I have to play the DJ. Next project, it's a project also particular because I live in one of the houses I will show you. It's a project. Sorry, it's a project that stays in a park in Fribourg, and where we experiment the possibility to build the smallest house following the rules and the norms in the nature. And the idea was, it's a private park belonging to our poor family. But the idea was to create a small structure that we could rent to take care of the park, to pay, I don't know how to say it in English, but to pay to plant the maintenance. Because it's a giant park, but we don't know really how to take. Before it used to have a gardener and people like this, and that's sad, but we don't have them anymore. And the idea was to create 5 houses rented, and with the rent we begin to take care of and to plant new trees. It's very complicated. I will not tell you how we managed to build in this park that was protected. I would need 2 hours, and I think Leila wouldn't like it. But it was a protected park. But just to know, we had to have the agreement of 80 neighbors and to bring them to a notary to give us the right to build in plots of 6 meters. So when we managed to do this, the exercise was to imagine a kind of structure that should be abstract. That was something important for us, and where we shouldn't also advise that it's a house. It should be between perhaps a cabane or like this fantastic building of Herrich in Hombert, a sculpture. And we decided that this house we would work on the idea of reduction and also trying to reduce the comfort. So to try to follow the rules of Switzerland, but to think about what can we put out in a normal house. Is it really important if you listen from one floor to the other? Can we put out the insulation between floors? Can we go down with money we pay for eating, small things like this? And we create this house that is 5 meters with 5 meters with only one small kitchen, one small bathroom, a dressing room, and the eating that is in the basement. And after, it's just slabs with a staircase, everything prefabricated. When we did it like this, we didn't know exactly if it would work. It was really already a challenge to have the possibility to build in this park, but we thought perhaps we can rent it as an office or as an atelier, and no, it works. It works as a house, and we have really many people asking to rent them. And as you can see, the plan is very simple. You have the technique is in the basement, just the kitchen, and then you have always a staircase that goes around the facade. And the most simple details as possible. Of course, here there is a cable missing and a fishing net that is still not installed in my house, but that's life. And then it's a normal prefabrication, or very classical project where very easy to build. Each houses was built more or less in 1 day and a half for the structure. And you see in this, I think it's the construction is always one of the most beautiful moments for the architect. You have this kind of surprise where you can suddenly read the house in negative. And then it's a conventional house. The luxury of the house here is the windows. All the windows and doors are sliding in the facade. And so you can really make the window disappear, and you have always the same image with windows open or closed, because the frame is completely hidden. And that was only complicated things in this house. And after I just make a tour of the system, that's a very complicated central heating. Then the kitchen. Upstairs you have on the first floor the sleeping room. And when you come upstairs, you have a little bit the highest room with 3.50 meters, where you can make meditation, read many very quiet things, and take advantage of the nature around. So what's funny in this house, it's a house, to draw a simple house, it's very easy for an architect because you don't have the constraint, you don't have so many things to solve. But what's beautiful with this house is to see how it reacts with the landscape. And so in summer, you have always this kind of view where it disappears completely in the trees. When it's dark, of course, there is no light around. So here there is light just for the photographs that wanted to make beautiful picture. But imagine to go home after a few drinks. For the neighbor, it's always a big adventure. We had several accidents, and they always told about like if it would be the best story of their life. The neighbor falling in a wall, and I don't know what. And then in winter, suddenly the houses are really more present. They come around in the park, and they are really more visible. And one magical moment, it's always when the farmer, because the field around is rented to a farmer, and the farmer brings his cows. And here you can see, a little bit like in the house of Laurent, the strong relation between the motive of the house and the architecture. Close your eyes, imagine the house, look in black and white, and you will see. You can open your eyes again. Of course, after a while, it's a bit tiring because the cows, they always stare in my kitchen. I don't know if you see. And so it's, I thought they were always looking at me because I was interesting, but the farmer told me they just look at themselves in the mirror. And it's very funny. Now he put something because he said it could be dangerous if they feel like attacking. And this field is an experimentation place for us. We also draw a house. After living there, we saw that this house is not so small as possible as that. It's 75, 80 square meter, and we draw now a house of 4.40 meters with 4.40 meters. It's still not built, but I don't come in the detail. But it would be very easy to live there, and that's just a picture of the model. And making this kind of experience, on the moment you publish a project like this, it's not a very good strategy for architects, because you have all the poor people of Switzerland calling us without money. Really, the people with economical problems, they phone to our office and say, I saw your house, I want the same, but a little bit cheaper. And most of the time, they don't have a place to build, they don't have money, but sometimes it works. And so now we have a few experience where we can adapt a little bit or make a little bit the same kind of project. This project is just, I don't explain it in detail, but it's a project where in Morges, where we could only build in the red area. So it was an area with 4 meters, with perhaps 40 square meter. And here we apply a little bit the same model like the tower, but it's on the horizontal. You go from one room to the other. And but that's very abnormal to have this possibility in Switzerland, because all the plots have a little bit the same size. And you can do this kind of experience only on restes. And here, the challenge for us was just to try to give the feeling of a big house when you are inside. And it's around 70 square meters in duplex. Will you present it or?
Oh, don't do it. Well, should I? Should I? No, vas-y.
Okay, I follow. Next project, that's the third project. It's a project we did also with Barbara that is in the public in 2007, and it's perhaps the project that looks more normal from outside, but that is probably the most radical we did. And it's a project also for the family, for a cousin of us. He was also in the picture. Do you want to see it? And what's special here, it's several houses together with this kind of annex. I don't know how to call it, in wood. And yeah, it's a normal landscape around Fribourg that you see. And you have, like always, a place to live, and then all the part of the farm, of the barn. And the problem was that the client said, okay, we have this house, we get it from our family, but we would like to live in something big and modern. And that was a bit complicated because we couldn't increase the volume. We should build in the volume. It's in an agriculture area. And everything was very, very complex. Also, the other problem was that the existing house has been renovated in '76. And the renovation was quite okay. And you could perfectly live there in 2007. And so we told the client, but just go there, save your money, and live inside without, it's perfect, you don't need an architect. But they insist, and they say, no, we want to try something. And so for us, we said, okay, if we have to make big spaces, we will use the barn, and we will try to eliminate the rest of the house. That's what we did. And so thinking that to make big volumes, we could create them in this part, but in this one that was already renovated, it was not necessary to try to do something inside. And the equation was also that it was not allowing to increase the living area of more than 100 square meters or something like this. No?
Less, I think 40 square meters, yeah.
So of course it was okay. If we build there, we have to destroy this. And that was quite acrobatic. The red things you see, it was the engineers that came to. There was a big wind in the night, and he was really not sleeping, and he came to try to make it more fixed. So
with Spanset to maintain the house together.
And after we get this structure, we were very happy to see that it was stable. And we begin also to cancel a little bit all the details that were not strong enough to support strong spaces. And doing this, we managed to create, I think I'm in front of you see something? Yeah? I thought I was bigger. So the decision was to make a volume and to let all the rooms under the roof free and cold. And then to use just these two passages as entrance, and to make one giant loft on the upper floor, and to have no cave, no basement, just the technical part in the middle, and a small apartment here. And at the end, you can see here the image under the roof. And then this image, when you see it and you don't know the history of the house, it's difficult to advine what was happening. And this very, very simple facade, symmetric, east, west, and north, south. What's also particular here, we try also to put out all the details that could perhaps make the house heavier. When it rains, the rain falls, and we collect the rain in the floor. And we rebuilt all this with very normal and cheap material. At the end, you have this building in the landscape is absolutely normal, and it's quite interesting when you think that the house was here before. Inside, it's very beautiful. Now, the particular thing is that you have on both sides more or less 50 meter of sliding windows and a kind of generosity. And that's, here the cow was less lucky than in our project. Sorry for her. It is definitely dead. And I switch now to the last project. Are you not tired or are we too long? It's okay. Because now the last project, it's 2 hours. No. So the last project we have also to deal with animals, and it's a project we finished 2 years ago. And what was very particular in this project, it was that we built for another architect. So we built for the architect of the city of Fribourg, and he's here. And he has a family and their 2 daughters and his wife. They are completely obsessed with horse competition. So the program was to renovate a farm, to renovate and to try to make new apartments in the barn, and also to make a house for 10 horses with a very, very low budget. And the architect is called Thierry Brutin, so that's why and you see it's in a landscape, a kind of, it's not particular. The only things for him, good for him, there was a lot of place for the horses, and then it's directly on the street. And the house was built in beginning of 18th century, so it was absolutely protected. And for us, the challenge was to see how we could make it possible to live there without making new opening or nearly new opening in the roof and in the facade. That was the original house, and here we couldn't use the techniques that we used before. It was not possible to destroy the existing house, and so the first plan was out. We had to find another solution. And if you see it, that was the main facade, like a chalet a little bit, and here the facade is perhaps less important. And what was beautiful in this house, it was really original. There was no transformation, and you can see it was a house for 2 families, 2 families of farmers, and one family was living on the left, the other on the right. There was a kitchen in the middle, and upstairs a smoke room for the sausages and things like this. And then they had both of them room also for the ingredients and reserve of. And so this absolute symmetric was really particular. And then if you see so here it was the house to live. You had the cows here, and then here the lays. We say it like this, lays, foin, the grass for the animals was here. And of course, the difficulty for us was to try to respect all the norms that we have in Switzerland for eating, for insulation, and also the cost. And that's you can see on this picture, it's pictures we took when we visited the first time, and so the house was also completely destroyed. I think one more winter and it would fall. And also something particular, the house is quite high in the mountain, so it's very cold. And when you visit for the first time this house, you think, okay, I had courses in Lausanne in the EPFL, but is it possible really to make these places with more than 15 degrees? This girl here, she was an intern. She was from Canada, North Canada, very, very north. An Inuit, but she was freezing. And so also all the inside was protected, and the question was, how could we find a solution to keep everything? We had also to work on the owner, and we told him, okay, we will do our best and we will try to use the money as good as possible, but you have to know that you will live in a house that won't change so much of what you see now. We won't have the possibility to make rooms completely different. And we had perhaps 4 or 5 meetings with him in 2 years, because he was an architect. We could decide what we would do, and it was very, very clear. And the idea was, of course, to maintain the house here, and then to create 2 duplex on the back in the barn, to replace the cows by horses, and then to try to concentrate all the technique in these places. Here was a place also where there was an existing wall to protect the house from the fire, or the contrary also. So we said we will try to reduce, and we will try to keep the house really as it was built at the beginning of the 18th centuries. Behind, we make a model for the structure, and we could decide also that we would keep the structure and build in these 2 places to make 2 houses. Of course, the question of isolation was very central in this project, and we took a little bit references in Japan, where the how it's called, I don't know, hoshi or something like this, the sliding walls and the several layers permit to create warm spaces and to have a kind of layer of temperature. And we thought that could be an interesting technique to use. And we did this model just to show it to the owner. The idea was to create here a wall of glass, a double glass, very, very simple, nearly without frames, to use it here like a temperate area, like a balcony, and then to let all the rest of the space. And then you see the plan of the intervention. So we could keep everything here. We had the kitchen that would stay where it was, and in between, in this layer, we put all the techniques and also all the techniques for the apartment behind. And all around here it's colder, and the red things, it's where it's warm. And upstairs you can see also you have 2 duplex that have 2 terraces, and the duplex have also the bathroom in this layer. And what was particular in this house is that we managed to make a kitchen with 13 meters high, because we destroyed the slab that was here, and it's perhaps something we would never manage to build in a normal or new villa, in any kind of new buildings, and that was something that makes the project absolutely particular. Also in the plan, if we go on, it was for us important to keep the idea of symmetry that was very strong in the original project. So here you see a bit some pictures of the ambience it creates, and something interesting is that this kind of glass of wall, it reflects the light, so there is more light with this with glass than without. And here, and then the corridor that the inhabitants use a little bit like an exhibition room, or they put books. The daughters, they even managed to put rabbits. So on the next to the sleeping room. And of course the cows are not so far away. And from outside you would never adivine what's inside, so we kept just everything like it is. And of course the kitchen here was really the main room. It was we couldn't put a standard kitchen of IKEA. It was necessary to put a heavy table where you can cook, and that could resist to this amazing space that is impossible to photography in one. So you need nearly 3. And it's also impossible to clean it. That makes it also particular. So you have every time to time some small pieces of black things that falls, and also some amazing toile d'araignée. And what's also nice is that from the upper floor you have always view on this area. That's Valerio, the architect, the project manager of this project, and Thierry Brutin, and you have always from each room upstairs you can see in the kitchen. On the backyard, the idea was also to on the barn, it was to make the duplex as low cost as possible, because yes, we didn't have the budget, and here we create 2 boxes very simply built We could also build it simply because we had already a roof, and that you can really use with a small family or for one person. And what was also funny in this project is that we didn't choose the opening directly on the in the construction. We couldn't plan it. We did model, but it was impossible to decide, and we didn't know if there would be light enough in the project. Something also great with this project is that you have the balconies. You look at your balcony, and so it's a kind of defense, or it's a kind of it's interesting when you have nationalist people living inside, because they are obliged to look at the flags they want to show to the neighbor, and they have it always in front when they cook, so that makes it particular. And coming back to the first idea we show, it's also particular in this house. It was that when he bought it, he said, okay, in 1 year and 4 months I don't have apartments, and it's 8 months I don't have room for my horses. So we were really, in a very pragmatic way, obliged to first build spaces for the horses, to make apartments that he could rent as fast as possible to rent them, and also to accept that the house wouldn't be finished. So we said, like, okay, the roof is broken, but it can still be broken 2 years or 3 years, it's not a problem. And this very pragmatic way brings aesthetic that normally we cannot use in Switzerland, and make it interesting. And so, of course, we show 4 projects that are particular. They are not really the image of the office, because we have many, like other Swiss offices, many bigger projects, and when you have bigger projects, you have to follow more rules, you have to follow programs, and it's the only things you have, it's to be perhaps to reduce with the typology, with the implantation. And it's always a question that we have when we show this small project is, yes, but how can you do it when you have a bigger project to do? And that's a question we have for all the big projects. But most of the time it's trying to also to be as simple and clear in the 4 projects as possible. Also in competition, at the moment you make a school in Switzerland, it's the program is done, and you have to respect all the norms. So you cannot have the unfinished process like we showed before. Sometimes it's possible when you have very specific competition. Here we won a competition for arena for Kuhkampf, for cows fightings. So it's the program was to create a stadium for 5,000 people and to look at the cows fight in Valais. And here we won the competition because we knew they wouldn't have money to build a normal stadium, and our proposal was just to reuse the material of a highway that was in construction just to the new place that was proposed for the project. And we said we will recreate a kind of artificial topography with this material. And so, but that's very not so usual in Switzerland. And I don't know why I put this picture, but it's a bit strange. It's a strange tradition. You have the cows; they stay in the middle, and then you have all the people cook. They bet about the number, and it's always the strongest cow will impress the other as they will go out of the circle. So, and the farmers said that these cows are very special. They are a bit aggressive, but I don't believe it. They are very nice. And I also believe that, I don't know, it would work with any kind of animal. If you would put 5,000 cows around, and you would put people here, there will always be one that will try to be the coolest one. It was not the conclusion I wanted to make, but I'm a bit sorry. No, thank you very much. If you didn't learn anything about architecture, at least now you have a big culture about cows, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. It was, at last, we had a very Swiss presentation showing cows and also kind of traditional vernacular architecture, because you are playing with our Swiss heritage also, farms and rural buildings. And what is your relationship to those old buildings? They are inspiring to you? It gives you ideas to deal with?
It was our first task in the study was to study vernacular architecture, and we had to build models of them. But we grew up in those spaces, they are part of our lives. But we have also a critical point of view, but it's something that is here in our lives, I think.
And also, I think we are not really interested with barns. It's just that they have, when you work in this kind of transformation, you can suddenly create big spaces or you have amazing structure. And it's not the idea that you can keep it that is interesting. What's interesting is that you have suddenly the possibility to make houses that you cannot do if you build a new apartment. This kind of kitchen, yes, it's something fantastic. And it's much more the spatial possibilities that it gives that is interesting, I guess.
Another question from me, and then we will discuss all together. You never talk about money. How much are those projects? How did it cost? How did it cost?
The house in Azerbaijan, 2,700.
Yeah, only this one, but for the other ones.
For the last one, like it's really project that we go in. We know that it's we are on the line. So as architect, we know that perhaps we won't be paid at the end, and we know that it makes part of the game. But it's also not with this kind of project that you can run an office. And so it's on the moment the project is interesting, it's a challenge. But the last project you saw, we arrived at the end, but it was missing 200,000 Swiss francs or something. And until the end, we have to find solution. But it's also, then you think, okay, the architect can be really helpful, and it's not just somebody coming for decoration, and it makes it interesting. And the problem is that you have, and now we have a few projects like this where it goes too far and it's too risky, but we always we are too enthusiastic to say no to somebody that wants to make something special without money. And the small houses also, we have the small 5-5. You can go down with the price, but in Switzerland you cannot go as down, because you have the mise en enquête, you have all the taxes that comes, and then all the firms are normally paid. So what we say as calculation is that we managed to create an area for living for a small house, the same cost like in a building, a normal building. And so we managed to make this concurrence, but we don't manage to go down. So it's always around 300,000, 400,000, but it's less, it's impossible.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we have many public now, and they would like to ask questions also. Please do so. Don't hesitate. We have those fantastic guys who are doing some interesting job, very special.
Good evening. Thank you for the conference. I just have a question about the second project, I think, where you destroyed... the one you destroyed a part of the house. I just understand, why did you have to destroy it? Because you just left something empty, so that was the wish to have emptiness? Or why did you destroy it and not leave it and rent it?
Because it was it's a law problem, because it was still inhabitable. So you cannot leave an empty house, it's still a house. So when you build in zone agricole, agriculture, I don't know how to say, area, then you have the house we showed you, it was maybe 200 square meters, and we could go up until 240 square meters. And we were free to put them where we want, but we couldn't leave the house and build something next door. Otherwise it would, even if if nobody lives in it, it's still inhabitable. That's the problem.
Also, it was possible because the house was not protected. Also, because we would never manage to do this if the house would be protected. But we didn't know if it would pass. It was also, like you said, in this kind of project, we take some risk. We speak with the client about the risk, and we say, okay, let's try. And if it works, but it's risky. And if you see the construction also, until when it's really, we can say it will stay or not, that make it interesting. It makes many clients afraid also.
Somebody in front of me, maybe I give, okay, you have another one.
Yes, hello. It's okay? Yeah. I have a question because when you speak about Switzerland, you are really critical about it. And you say, but I guess you choose special project for tonight. But in your opinion, is it bad for architecture to create projects in too good conditions where you have too many laws? And for you, where would it be perfect to do a project? Well, I mean, you have specific condition in Switzerland, it's good because you have money. But then, do you think, where would it be perfect to do a project? It's
Switzerland. No, we just show project because we were asked to show projects that were going in this direction. But in the same time, we really appreciate the possibility we have in Switzerland. We really appreciate the norm. We really appreciate the control of the territory. And we really appreciate also the competition. We have free competition in Switzerland. It's something you don't have in any other countries. And so, just take it like for the project we show, but I think and also we are, I'm really impressed with the Swiss production. There are many architects that make things that looks perhaps sometimes normal from abroad, but typologically, also in the housing project, we have an amazing laboratory of research in Switzerland, and it's just that very often it's not spectacular from abroad compared to museum or other projects.
And the big luck we have in Switzerland is also to be able to control the building site, so which you don't have in France or I think in Italy as well, Germany. It's really hard, and then the architects, they just draw something and then somebody else builds it, and you lose quite a lot through that.
That's probably also because you have kind of special clients. Sometimes it's yourself also, but in France you could also have special you could also manage to take care of everything also. It's mainly the problem of the fact, I think, that in Switzerland the architects maybe know a bit more about construction and stuff like that, which gives them more responsibilities.
No, it's a question of law. And also in big buildings, as architect, we have really much more work than in other countries, and that's a fantastic possibility.
Yeah, in France, if you have a public building, you can't build it yourself. You have all construction teams which follow the project. Of course, a small house, you can make it, but not bigger projects.
Yeah, that's what I mean by it depends on the client.
Yeah.
If it's a public building, yeah. But if it's houses like that, for example, like
of course, but
you of course can.
Yeah. But houses are just a very small part of the Swiss production, and so it's very specific what we show. But most of the Swiss production, it's about public buildings, and that's make it fantastic, and also the best place to work, I guess.
It's what Paul said, with these small projects, you cannot live. An office cannot live with it. You have too much work, and then you don't get enough money to have or you live in, or you have an office as we had, and we could make it because we were 30 or I don't know, and no family, and that's okay.
And at the rear, somebody there. Au milieu, là, le jeune homme.
Yes, good evening. I have a question about the project you showed, the one which is half destroyed. I would like to know when was at some point you decided to keep a part of the house instead of destroying everything and take it, have a new empty field to build a box or something which could be less, could have less costs. What was your goal, to keep some elements or not, and what was the relation with the client? Is it some particular interest in the form or in the vernacular elements that stays?
I think a project like this, it doesn't work if you don't keep anything. Just to keep the roof or to keep the structure is very important. Otherwise, you said okay. And we were also legally we were also in a. It was also important to say we keep this, we transform it, but we keep it. And in the construction, it's also very interesting to keep a roof. You can work under, so it was economically very interesting because it didn't fall in winter. But
even if you would have done the same form.
Yeah, but the same form, and then you have all this question: why to make the same form? What kind of material? And so for us, it was really the balance to try to keep as much as possible what was interesting. But it's a good question. I mean, like it works with certain projects, and here I think it works. But
I suppose it's kind of a risk for the client also, because you can have overcosts.
No, but
no, I don't think so. It was not so much overcost, but the client was very open to this. He had also respect to the house. But mostly people say, no, never, don't touch the house, we don't want to destroy anything. But they were open to destroy it, part of it. And they were incredible clients. They told us we don't want to live in a fake old farm or something. They wanted something real. So they were open to that and they understood the démarche.
And then it's a very economic project. The changing in the project was, we saw that it was important to have 2 apartments on a financial level, but otherwise it was very interesting to keep the structure. It's very simple. On the moment we rebuilt it, it was very. The only thing difficult it was to put the piano in the living room, but.
Thank you for the lecture.
But
yeah,
it's okay. Yeah, one more and then we go here, huh? Yeah.
Okay. There? No?
Okay.
Yes. Okay, thanks for the lecture.
Hello.
Just a question. You speak or? No, please.
We are 2. You can make both questions at the same time.
Okay. Well. Okay. Thanks for the lecture. I just wanted to ask something. As a future architects, it's very nice to see your nice projects and so. But in a way, it's quite sad to hear that the project of transformation of houses and so are unfortunately not possible to have just this kind of projects because you need to run an office and so and so. So you say, okay, we can have fun sometimes with those kind of projects, but in reality, you have to have other projects. So what do you think? I was thinking about, for instance, Patrick Bouchin in France or Professor Graf, who said that we have to change the way that we pay the architect. So not to pay the architect in percentage of what they built, but maybe to find a new system of paying architects. And maybe we can say we are much more paid if we buy much cheaper. You know what I mean? So what do you think? Would it be possible, you think, to change the law? So you know?
No, but I think it's something positive. We show this project because I think if we would be tomorrow only the 2 in the office, we would do only this kind of project, and it's possible to live with them. But on the moment you are 20 or more, but you have a kind of structure where you need bigger project, and that's it. But it's completely possible to make experience, and you should do it as student. It's very important to find a way to make experience, and that's the message. It's not that it's sad and to say no, you don't get paid with it. And I didn't understood what you said about what would be the other way to be paid.
No, also what we can say is sometimes you get more paid. You have rich clients. But it's very rare to make nice projects with these clients because they want very special things, and they are ready to pay for it, but they want also a jacuzzi, and yeah, it's hard to find people which have the culture to build something strong and go to the end of the idea, I think. So it's also maybe sometimes a problem.
The last project, we saw the client 4 times. We decided, okay, we make the windows like this, and it was only ruled by economical point of view, but on the moment you have somebody understanding you on the ideas, you win also a lot of time. So perhaps it's not so important to win a lot of money, because you can do other things in the same time. And that make it it's always difficult. You also, in the office, need more radical small project where you don't win money, but they will, if we wouldn't make this project, we wouldn't be invited here. And so it's clear.
I think we have to
and we have a free apéro after.
We have to pass the mic on the rear because people are asking for questions.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay,
Perfect.
First of all, greetings from Portugal. We love your work. Ask one small comment, and then I have just a question, maybe more for Paul, because you will understand why. First, I would like for you to make a small reflection about this thing, like conflict or a kind of balance between reference for context and also the abstract idea of concept. How do you deal with it? Respect for context, which I seem it's a little bit underlined in your works, your projects. The context and also the strongness of the concept. The second question is about, do you have any Portuguese references since you've been there 5 years? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think here we show 4 contextual projects, but there are many projects where there is no need it's not interesting to make a contextual project. And I think whatever the context is, you have to have a strong concept, and that's the most important things. You can make great project without seeing even the place where you will build. And I think this example we shows are not the only strategy we have in the office. And you can make. And for your second question, of course we are both. Also, Laurent, he went very often to Portugal, so we have our model. I was building also model for Álvaro Siza when I was in Porto, and so it's also a culture that is very close from Switzerland. In the scale, I think the people they have the same kind of attitude. They are very respectful. They are a kind of politeness in the culture and that's why I think Swiss and Portuguese work very good together. And but for us, of course, I guess Siza is still the big reference. And
I think you have a big luck in Portugal that normal people have respect towards architects, which is not only not the case in Switzerland sometimes. You say, "Oh, you're an architect. Oh, poor guy." But in Portugal, Senhor Arquitecto,
I was during years
like a doctor.
Dottor, Signor Architetto. As student, it's very good to listen to this.
So I think there are many questions at the rear. If you want to go.
Hello. I would like to ask. We've been focusing on the unit itself of the house and how we did the solutions for use it and reuse the elements that we already have and adding. Okay. And we added on only a few details to set it for being the perfect house. But I'm asking about the accessibility of the unit itself. It's in the middle of farm fields, and it's like far away from surroundings. And what about the services? What about the accessibility from the daily use? Is it for the daily use of the people, or any access for the lands, for walkways, or for the cars? Oh, How is it used?
They are all houses for main houses for people. There are no vacancy houses, so they are. In Switzerland, we have the luck to have a certain density, so you can live in a village and go to town. That's it, no? That's. Ah, pour les tiennes. Ouais.
No, I guess you mean in the small tower. How you?
I mean, like each house is totally separated from every single thing around. There is not any kind of services around. Or
No, there is a bus like 500 or 1 kilometer far away.
It's so far. So if
more or less, and then you have also a small way to go by feet there.
Okay, so if I'm not having a car, I should walk.
Sorry, but we don't listen to you.
If I don't have a car, how can I go all the way through this?
That's a trick, because when you build such a house, you need to make a selection with the people living. And we said we want to keep the park, and there are so many people that don't need cars. There are so many people that don't have 200 furnitures. And so we said if we build a house like this, there will be interested people that don't need all these kind of things we have. And we have the proof now. We could even put out the toilets as they would rent the house. And so, that makes it interesting.
So the house is not so expensive, but I should pay money in another way, like in the vehicles or in the petrol for the cars, or is just usually like this?
I didn't understood what you said.
Like if I'm going and coming and back every day, cutting all these fields, and with it, I'm going to pay more on the petrol of the car.
No, you will have an answer now. Wait a minute, please.
Okay.
I think you are completely mistaken.
No, it's just, sorry, to answer your question, because if I understand what you're asking is that you have the impression that every house he showed is lost in the middle of nowhere. But in Switzerland, villages are quite small, and so every village is not far away from a bigger village or even from a big town. And so you have buses and trains and everything, and so it's not very difficult to get around. I live in a village in Switzerland where we are like probably 500 people, not even that, and I have a bus, and in 40 minutes I'm in Geneva. And in Switzerland, that's how we live, I think. We just take trains and buses, and we don't need all the car or anything. So it's not unusual in Switzerland to live in the middle of a park or in the middle of a village and not in a big city.
Also, the park is, I go every day from the house to the office. I need 12 minutes, so with bicycle. It's very near to the center of the city. So it's also something I didn't explain, but it makes it particular. It's
And the middle. Till now, the middle didn't say anything. Or maybe they have some words to tell.
Okay, guys.
S'il vous plaît.
Guys, please. Thank you very much. Your projects are very interesting. But do you have an idea, a project, or a strategy to integrate more your ideas of not building but changing the buildings and inside the cities, but not only in the country?
Oh yeah, of course.
If you have inside big cities like Geneva or like Milano, not only small villages, but
it's just we didn't have the occasion to do it now.
We have it, but we didn't show the project, and so.
Yeah.
But it's also clear that on the moment you work in a city, you don't work with this romantic point of view of image of a farm. On the moment we are in the city, we build tower, we build buildings that are contemporary, and that's it. And the only strategy we have is to make, that we saw in the 4 projects, it's to make the project as clear as possible in the 4 projects and to follow the idea until the end. And that's the main strategy.
I could add something because I am very interested in heritage. You are not conservators, you are really architects, but again I ask you, what is the impulse given by the old houses? And how should we treat old houses? Because sometimes we are very like ayatollahs, you know, wanting to preserve everything of the heritage. What is your attitude to the past as architects?
I think it's difficult to be general, but to come back to the other question, I think also when I see the patrimoine or the existing placing in the cities, very often it's difficult to rebuild two big spaces. We see it in Zurich, we see it, so you have always a kind of quality with the mix, and I would say it doesn't depend on the building, but you always need a kind of, it's a kind of going and rebuilding in the time, and that's something more important than to say, okay, we should absolutely keep this kind of building or keep this kind of building. And I guess we are much more interested in the balance you can have. And I don't remember, there was an artist in Lisbon, I think he was from London. He was making an exhibition in Lisbon, very interesting, when he was going in a place and he was filming or finding through archive the destruction of like industrial building, and then just to show a new monument. And then he was making with the archive the contrary. So you could see the film where he was imagining that we would destroy the monuments to keep an industry. And I think it's a little bit this kind of idea where it's for each situation. I'm not able to have a straight speech about this. Yeah.
If there is not a question at the moment, I have another one. What is the relationship you have to wooden architecture?
Oh, we don't like
the
it.
art of wood.
It's
you use it quite a lot.
Of course, it's a very simple material. For us, it was so simple that we could even build ourselves, because we learned to build models at school, how to deal with the machines, and I don't know how to weld, but that's also something like this. I think if I had the passion for metal, we would have a metal office maybe. But it's a very strong material which has always this simplicity, I think.
It makes the detail simple in wood, so that's the main quality. But after, the only difficulty it's with certain projects, it becomes very fast picturesque, and that's and also so we are very often associated with wood, but I don't know. I like as much beton as wood, and but it's very simple to use wood, and it's you can a wood house you can build it by yourself.
Hello, first of all, thank you. And now that you live in one of the 5 houses in the forest, would you change anything in the concept?
In the 5, of course, yes, because this kind of house are always experiences. And so, as you saw, we did already a model with 4 meter, 4 meter. And even if you build it 2 years after, yes, there is no rule. You should use it as an experience as architect. But I mean, more or less, it works well. So I'm always, if we didn't build it now, it's also because we know that the concept is good, but we would never build 2 times the same project. That's a clear-cut case. That's very, because it's an opportunity to experiment something a little bit special, and so. And if I would change, I thought about, but I would, in the last idea, it was always to make a house without basement, because it's quite expensive to make the basement. And perhaps living in the house, I see that I don't need really a living room. I could perfectly have a kind of main room, kitchen, and I would like to go on the top of the roof. That was my the two ideas for the next project. And also something, perhaps the project was done very fast in the office, and I think it's very important. It's a bit strange in such a house if you don't see around. So when you sleep, I would like to sleep and to see the periphery, to have a window everywhere, because it's so amazing the view in the night in a forest that and we didn't realize it when we built it.
Like the TNA house.
Yeah.
Japanese.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It was this one. So maybe it is a signal. No? We have to stop here the conversation, and maybe we can go on discussing in the salon together, all together. We have many students. It's an opportunity for you to exchange some ideas, and now I think we will stop here, and we will find together, we will join together in the morning, if you wish, at Metropolis, at the horizontal Metropolis at the Certosa, or in the evening, you are welcome also with the Ajae office tomorrow evening and with Ellen Baxter. Thank you very much.
And just to finish, also, thank you again on behalf of Pro Helvetia for being all here. You can stay, as I say, here, continue the discussion with our guests. Thank you for coming to Venice. Thank you, Leila, again. And just a little logistical thing. We're many people, so what we will try to do is now to remove the black chairs. Maybe you can even help us a bit. So we make space, and then we'll open the bar. And there's enough drinks, but it's going to, of course, take a moment till we can serve everybody. So please stay with us and enjoy the evening. Thank you very much.